I'm only one drink away from the devil. I'm only one call away from home.
Welcome back to Unbandaged. We are getting monstrous on social media, Gavia. Let me just go through where we are. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. It's unbelievable. I'm a dinosaur. I don't know anything about the social media world, but now that we're on social media, it's really, really exploding. So I have a funny little story. My brother-in-law, my sister's husband, who's the greatest guy on the face of the earth, goes in to give blood this week. He's in Virginia Beach. He goes in to give blood this week. And they have a whole questionnaire for him to fill out, and some of them are legitimate questions. The first question is, are you a man or a woman? Now, this guy, he looks, he's got a beard like you and I. I mean, I don't know what he is, 67, 68
Crazy.
years. I mean, how are you asking a guy? He's in there on a charitable mission to give blood, right. And they're asking him, are you a man or a woman? And now we're watching the congressional hearings the other day, and one of the congresswomen are asking somebody from the United States Procurement Office, are you aware how much money the United States military spent last year on Viagra? And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, wait a second, kids in the military, they're probably 18 to 25, right? You haven't had sex for probably a year. You're in the middle of the desert. Why do you need Viagra? I mean, after a year of not having sex. Anyway, they spent $41 million last year, the United States military buying Viagra. And then how about Steve Wynn? Tell us about, Steve Wynn Casino.
Well, he could use the Viagra. He's 81 years old. I think he just settled his suit. He's banned from Vegas. Mr. Vegas.
Mr. Vegas.
Mr. Vegas is banned. He had to pay, $10 million? I mean, it's amazing that was a big thing that he had to negotiate. I guess they're just going to, send the girls to his room and say, don't do it in your casino. We'll just get some call girls and come to you. But, the question I have with your brother-in-law, how did we get to this point? It didn't happen overnight, and it's not the majority of people. Is it that the majority of people just sit there? And we just don't care. We don't care. So the little bit, the 2%ers are sitting there saying, this is the law I need. And they keep yelling, and other people aren't caring. Then the next thing you know, you wake up, you're in a doctor's office, and they're asking your son, he could be 9 years old, 10 years old, they're asking him what he is. I mean, how did we get to this point?
Well, I guess, first of all, my brother-in-law is one of our almost 70,000 listeners. And every week after he sees the show, he calls me and he gives me ideas and critiques me. So he's chuckling. He's starting out the conversation laughing. And to answer your question, this is how we got there. Have you seen this week Harry Reid? Not Harry Reid. What's his name? The head of Dianne Feinstein.
Whatchamacallit? Our
head of the Senate, McConnell. Right, McConnell, Feinstein, Fetterman, Joe Biden, they're unconscious. I mean, they're like this today. I'm listening. This Dianne Feinstein is 91. They have her on the floor for a vote, and you can hear the guy whispering in her ear, say aye. Say aye.
Yeah, but you know what's crazy? You know what's crazy with that?
That's how we got there.
I know, but you know what's crazy with that? They're telling her what she's even voting for.
That's right.
So she's representing a state. There's only 2 senators in a state. She's representing the state of California. She has no idea what she's voting for. They could have said, I want to put everybody in jail. And she would have said, say aye. And she would have said, aye. So it's like,
that's funny. I want to put everybody in jail.
Yeah, she would have. But the crazy thing is, everybody says there should be term limits. There should be, something with age. And it almost gets to a point where shouldn't the people care more about politics? That age shouldn't really come into play. You should be able to look at a TV, and if you see a duck, if it looks like a duck, if it sounds like a duck, how does she keep winning? I mean, like, at a certain point, she has to win an election. So she
6 years. So she has 6 years.
So she has a year to go. So she still went for an election at 86 years old.
Right.
I mean, why isn't someone saying, listen, I think you should step aside or just vote her out? I mean, it should come down to the people. You can vote people out. I know.
Well, it's like a driver's license. When you get too old, they take it away. I mean, she's too old. Take her to Senate.
Why can't the people just vote her out? I mean, why can't when she goes up for an election, I mean, she's winning the vote.
Well, think about it for a
winning.
second. I understand, but what happens if you have a really decent Republican challenger against a weak Democratic person that would take her seat? So they would rather not even
Get a Democratic challenger.
Yeah. True.
I mean, get someone to say, listen, I'm not going to just follow this person. It's you could almost bring back a Bible story when, like, Moses freed the Jews from Egypt. It's like after he got lost in his 40 years. Let me ask you a question. How many years would you be following him without you saying to your wife, I think he's lost? Would you follow him for 40 years? Or would you say, we're going the other way, he's lost? So it's like, sort of like, how long do you follow Dianne Feinstein?
So there's a funny joke. Rodney Dangerfield, an old-time comedian, he says, I went to my doctor, and my doctor said, I'm too fat, I need to run, 5 miles a day. So 14 days later, I'm 70 miles from home. Anyway, so this week, I mean, the first couple things, we just had to blow through this Viagra thing. I just don't understand. And now... who the hell wants to go give blood if they're going, well, I understand you have an STD. They're asking you some, really prudent questions that affect the blood. But anyway, this Hunter Biden thing is just...
the story just doesn't go away, and
it's like
won't.
Reality TV.
But we got to embrace it now. So
right.
I tell you, that's how I look at it. I look at it that... when I was younger, soap operas were really big. If you came home and you were in college, if there was General Hospital on, and you had these two families, there was Luke and Laura, and then you had the Castledine family, or then if you went to Dallas, or if you went to Dynasty, you had the powerful Carrington family. That's all make-believe, but this is real now, and it's the same thing. So anybody who doesn't like political science can actually get involved. It's easy. You can miss a week, get right back in and say, okay, where are we at today? Oh, we're back to Hunter. You won't believe it. They tried to get him off this deal. He was dead in the water. The judge, it looked like it was going to be a simple deal, but you know what? She saw on the third page, section 15, that immunity, and she said no. I mean, it's like a soap opera that you're watching.
Well, it starts out, because I watched, him enter the courthouse. Hunter Biden, crack addict, whatever the hell he is, drives up in an 8 motorcade, vehicle motorcade protected by the Secret Service. I'm like, why does this guy get an 8-car motorcade?
He's a private citizen.
Yeah, he wasn't elected to any office. I understand he's the president's son. You get kidnapped, whatever. You can ransom the president. But that was unbelievable. Well,
you don't think it's a little unbelievable that these people for 5 years tried to put this guy away in jail, and when he went there in the beginning, he was so cool and calm that he was getting off that he shook their hands? Like, that was the other thing. He shook the hands of the prosecutors. Now, I understand that you can sit next to your defense team. You sit next to your side, your team. But, like, he's making nice, like, hi, nice to see you today. How's everything going? These are the people that are supposedly trying to put this guy in jail. And obviously, he knew that he was getting off until something happened.
Well, it's remarkable because his defense attorneys are negotiating with the DOJ, which are so crooked. It's almost like, you're negotiating with your brother, to decide if you're going to go to jail or not. And so thank God there's a thing called the amicus brief where interested third parties are allowed to file documents with the court if they have an interest in the case. And in this amicus brief, they had this... wait a second. In this plea deal, he gets immunity for everything he's ever done in his life or
future.
Or the future. I mean, literally anything. So we were lucky, I guess, in the respect that the judge said, wait a second here. Do you have any pending investigations? And his attorneys went like, "What do you mean pending investigations?" I mean,
But then she also asked them, have you ever seen a deal like this before? And they were like, never. So it's like...
they said that?
Yeah, they said never. This has never been done before, and she asked them that question. So it's like when Joe Biden, when that first story came out in the New York Times that they were going to write a story about Hunter Biden, and he called up his son at night. They have the tape, and they go, "Hunter, it's Dad. I just want to leave a message. I got word from the New York Times. Everything's going to be okay. You're in the clear." It's like he thought he was sending his son to this thing. Don't worry, everything's in the clear, because if Hunter's in the clear, Joe will be in the clear. And Hunter came back and said, "Dad, we got a problem. Like, we have a problem."
Unbelievable.
And now there's the big thing is, who is going to take the hit? Garland? Weiss? I mean, Weiss is the Delaware special counsel that has a reputation on the line here. You got Garland, who, by the way,
who's the Attorney General of the United States.
So as soon as this hit, he immediately, Joe Biden said to him, "Here's what I need. I need coverage tomorrow. 2 more indictments on Trump. We got to put him on the news.
We got to get off the TV here."
It's now the 3rd time that has happened. Every single time something happens to Hunter, Trump gets another indictment. I mean, it's almost like you can bet on it. I wonder if there was. It's like crazy.
So the question that I have for you, Govy, is how deep does this go? I mean, is Obama...
He's involved.
Obama.
He's
Wait, I want to give you a second to think about it. That was like 1 second.
I'll tell you how deep it goes. It goes all the way back to people learning from the Clinton Foundation. They were the ones that came up with this Clinton Foundation. They got away with it. Bill rode off in the sunset with all this money, and it's coming. And then if they would just leave, but then Hillary had to say, "I'm back." They can't.
Right.
It's a drug. They can't leave the spotlight, and no one would have known about their situation. Now Biden, he's with Obama. That's his right-hand guy. Obama's put him in charge of China and Ukraine. And he's coming back, and then when he sees his son is on the board of Burisma, Barack Obama already told him he shouldn't be on the board. We're like this is crazy. And then he's like, "All right, Joe, listen, we got a year to go. We're going to go into the sunset ourselves. We'll take the money and we'll leave." He didn't endorse Biden. He purposely did not endorse Biden when he ran, and then all of a sudden he realizes,
when Biden ran, he panicked. He
endorsed Hillary, so Biden missed the shot, and then he's thinking, okay, what are the chances of this guy coming? Like, they're going to recycle Biden,
right?
And it goes to him. I think he knows, and that's where. But the sad part is where the conspiracy comes in, and I'm not a conspiracy person. But this chef...
So now for our 70,000, almost 70,000 listeners, this week, Obama, who I actually thought was decent,
Me too.
I mean, he didn't hurt us.
Charisma, I like him.
Yeah, he didn't hurt us, and I thought Obama was a uniter, not a divider, like Kamala Harris.
And he's head and shoulders above Biden. He
was a brilliant guy. I mean, his economic policies were not great for us business owners, but he at least listened.
Right.
He came in his ideas were liberal, but when he legislated, he
got people involved in politics. He brought the young, he brought different races. He got them interested in learning about politics rather than just, not showing up. He really brought out the vote.
So for everybody that didn't read the papers this week, Barack Obama, your average Joe Barack Obama man, defending African Americans all over the United States, has a personal chef. I don't know. I know a lot of rich people. I don't know anybody that has a personal chef. Okay, he has a personal chef that works for him every day.
That he took from the White House.
He took from the White House. He's at his $14 or $20 million house in Martha's Vineyard. Behind the house is Pondera Lake that is 10 feet deep. Not deep.
But it's not an ocean. It's a very quiet, still.
Quiet.
Right.
And the personal chef, I guess Barack Obama's out on the town having dinner somewhere, and the personal chef decides to paddleboard. And this personal chef, it's amazing. You You don't remember 3, 4, 5 years ago when you were swimming or cutting wood or doing something, somebody took a picture of you. They have a picture of this personal chef doing the backstroke.
Right.
Pool. I mean, this guy was like an all-star swimmer. He drowned in 10 feet of water in a calm lake. Now,
with a person supposedly watching him that was there with him.
Right. Now, let's think about it. If you have a personal chef, you're sitting at your dining room table. He's right there in the kitchen. He's cooking. He hears everything that you say. You're on the phone call with Joe Biden. Joe, what the fuck did you do? You stole $17 million. The personal chef hears that. And I'm like you with this conspiracy theory stuff, but really, I mean, it's really hard to believe that this guy drowns in 10 feet of water, and all of a sudden, he disappears. And you wonder, did the guy have a diary? Did every word he heard around that kitchen table, did the Secret Service rat him out? Did some James Bond dark faith character
I'm going to ask
him?
If it's not a conspiracy, do you think most people believe that Epstein did not commit suicide?
I don't think that people really, he was such a creep. I agree with you, but everybody loathed him.
Didn't you hear something that you heard that?
Yeah.
So tell me, what did you hear about Epstein?
So on Instagram, now that we're so huge on all these different social medias, I follow all these things. There's this mobster. His name is Franzone, and he was in prison. And John Alide, I think his name is too. They were in prison for years, incarcerated for half of their adult life, and they're asking him questions about prison and gangs in prison, and is it possible that Epstein killed himself, hung himself? And he says, well, he had 17. What do you have? 17 sheets or something in his room in prison. You get one sheet,
and it's not like you put it away and you have a closet. It's right there.
You get one sheet. You don't even have, So he gets one, but he has 17 sheets.
You have a bathroom that you're going to the bathroom in the middle of everybody.
I don't even think there's a toilet seat from what I've seen. Anyway, long story short, this guy, this gangster says it is impossible that he wasn't killed in prison. The actual cellmates who killed him, choked him, or whatever they did, hung him, actually have keys to these cells, and they go in these cells at 2, 3 in the morning, and they do whatever they're supposed to do. And as a result of that, they're treated as kings in prison because they get the better food, and if they follow the orders and they do the dirty deeds, they get treated like kings in prison. But I mean, it's like, and I guess I would have never believed any of this stuff, but when you start to follow this Hunter Biden story and all this other stuff, and Hillary breaking all these emails, you start to believe this.
And everybody okays it. Okay, I had all these 35,000 emails. Let's just get rid of them, and they go away. Where it's almost like, why couldn't Donald Trump in the very beginning just say, "You won't believe it, I had a little accident, had a little fire. I lost all the things. They're gone." Now, would they have treated him the same way as Hillary Clinton? Just say, "Oh, I guess they're gone." I mean, it's almost like, so she gets away with it. Epstein dies. It's Joe Biden's, Hunter Biden's legal team called the judge pretending they were the other side.
Unbelievable story.
On the other side, which is like crazy, and asking, can you throw out the whistleblower's testimony from the case? The judge traces the phone call back to Hunter's lawyers.
Right, caller ID. Not like these lawyers are supposed to be smart.
Right, caller ID.
You have caller ID.
Chase it, gets it right back to Hunter's lawyers, and you have to sit there and say the things that they think they can get away with. And Joe, the whole time on the campaign, saying, "I've never discuss business with my son." And now they slightly change it to he was never in business with his son, which is a big difference.
And we're going to find out if he was or he wasn't. But then,
Monday, we're talking about Archer. Remember?
So let me ask you a question. If there are 21 transfers of millions of dollars to your account, can you make a claim that you weren't in business with him? Your son was just being generous with you? I mean, that'll probably be his claim.
No, there's so many.
Because he spoke on the phone to all these his partners. And
As I said to you last week, this judge has an opportunity to make a name for herself. She could do the right thing, which is what she did by looking at it, or she could rubber stamp it and she goes away. But she didn't rubber stamp it, so her name is going to be. This is going to be very famous. But on Monday, there is a person that most people don't know is this Archer, who was Hunter Biden's best friend and business partner. And he is testifying Monday. Right now, he is in a secret location because he doesn't.
Secret location.
Because he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to end up like the chef.
The chef. He's not swimming this.
Right. He doesn't want to be like the chef. So they're bringing him out on Monday. And this guy.
So he's like in a witness protection program.
Witness protection.
Okay.
He's going to go in front of Congress, and he's going to say everything about that. Joe Biden was in on this deal. There was 21 times that Hunter Biden put him on the phone, and that he brokered some of the deals, and he was getting some of the money. He was the big guy.
So it'll be devastating if it's one thing for him to say that, but if he has a recording of Joe's voice, or if he has, maybe some.
If he gives you the paper trail, if he tells you this is the off account. By Monday night, there's a chance everybody in the world knows Archer's name, and that the Democratic Party could be sitting there saying, all right, who's on deck? Like they could be thinking this is the – and I think right now, do you believe that the Democratic Party are huddling up right now with a game plan if this doesn't go? They have to think.
Well,
they have to be thinking, what happens if it does go down? They can't be caught off guard.
Well, I think that Fetterman and Dianne Feinstein are sitting there trying to figure this out. Maybe they're a candidate. No, but, it's like Nikki Haley keeps saying, Govy, is that you are voting for how do you pronounce her name? This gal at my gym, Tara, shout out to you, tells me I pronounce her name wrong. So please tell me how to pronounce her name. It's Kamala?
Kamala.
Okay. So a vote for Joe Biden is really for President Harris, because she's ultimately going to be the president. He's either going to get impeached, or he's going to drop dead, or they're going to say he's not fit to be president. And it's interesting, and But
it goes back to like, do you think sometimes if you say nothing, you're better off than if you talk? Because if you talk, everybody knows, like, you said something stupid. I think that's McConnell's game plan. He can just sit there, stare into the camera, right. And if he says nothing, he still comes out better than Fetterman and Feinstein.
He looked like he was sweating. But what do you think? Okay, all right, for our 70,000 listening audience, okay, so now there's an impeachment hearing. It's a tie vote. The vice president has to break the tie, and she can become the president of the United States. Does she vote to impeach Biden, or she says no?
She impeaches him.
He's out.
She impeaches him. She goes home that night, kisses her husband, and says, "Would you like to make love to the president of the United States?" And that's what she does. She says, "You're going to be with the president of the United States tonight." And she absolutely becomes the first woman president of the United States.
But I want to know, so I don't have a racist bone in my body. My 4 kids all went to liberal colleges and schools and friends' schools. And, being I'm around them my whole life, I have a different viewpoint on a lot of different things. But she every speech that she gives is like a racist hate speech. It's hate. Right. And she's trying to divide the country. She never gets up there, Harris, and says anything that's positive. By the way, there's 350 million Americans. She represents us. She's our vice president. She is the second most powerful person in the world. Why every time does she talk? This is like a Mark Levin rant. Why every time that she talks does it have to be division, white against black? Nobody wants to talk about it. It's a horrible conversation to talk about, but it's so true. It's not right.
I'm going to tell you why I think she does.
Okay, why does she do this?
Because they put her in charge of a lot of different things, like the border was one of them, right, that she went over there. They gave her, she's in charge of the Space Force. I I think they might have tried to put her in charge of AI, but she's failed at all of them. The one thing she has that you can't take away from her is her race. So they said, you know what? This is your trump card. We need you right now. So divide the country, bring on the race. Even when they tell her that the scholar, the black scholar who wrote this for Florida, is telling her she's wrong and explaining it to her. And she's still, that's not the game plan. The game plan is that most Americans don't follow the news, right? And she's like, I'm going to run with this. And they march her out there and they say, divide the country. We need that. And that's what she does.
Well, there was 191 things on that thing, and she picked out that one line.
Right.
You know, she's just such a divider, and she's a big fat phony.
Right. She's not in real life. Right. Her husband's white.
Yeah, her husband's a white Jewish guy, like us. And it's just hateful speech. It's not even fair. And I want her to go up there and talk intelligently about an intelligent subject, not get up there and say, you know, we this and that, and, you know, all this hate speech. It should be something. And if she is in fact going to be the president of the United States, she's got to move the needle here. I mean, she's got to.
Well, let me ask you that. When you say president of the United States, when you saw Biden in the debates against Trump, when Trump was the sitting president, Joe Biden looked like a completely different person just 2 years ago than he does now.
Yeah.
I mean, this presidency where it does age it, but this one, you see when he's 80, it took a toll. He's a shell of himself. So what's crazy is...
Did Hunter take the toll on him, or did the presidency do it?
Or commander. This dog is biting everybody.
This dog's biting people.
I mean, he's stressed out. This dog is biting 7 people after Major. But you got to sit there and say to yourself, Kamala Harris is going to be the president of the United States. If you vote for Joe Biden, it will be very similar to, you know, a politician that says, get me across the finish line and you take over. And it's almost like all the Americans were just pawns in the big thing. Joe Biden could be sitting there saying, let me make a deal with Ukraine. I need money. Billions of dollars are being taught. There could be a war, an endless war going on, and American people are just giving tax dollars to
Ukraine. Or
did you hear Donald Trump? They asked him a question. He actually posted this on his social network. They asked him if there's a civilization out there, you know, because of this whole thing with the UFOs.
Yeah, the UFOs.
And he says, well, if there is, I'm sure the United States is going to be giving them money.
Well, it's another thing. So these guys are testifying that the United States administration, NASA, the military, everybody is hiding the fact that there are UFOs out there. And like UFOs, like my brain isn't that big to get my head around a UFO, but it's like another thing they're hiding from us. They're hiding everything from us.
And these people are quality guys. They're still, some of them are still in like the military. There were Air Force guys, and they're asking them to describe the spaceship.
Are you human? Well, no, you're a UFO. You're not human.
But they asked them to describe the spaceship. Did you hear like one of what the descriptions were? Like it looked like a propane tank on the bottom, basically, and it can just go in any direction. And they were saying how much more advanced they are than we are. And they compared it to if you went back to the Neanderthals and you handed them an Apple iPad, they would look at you like,
wow,
like that's how far ahead they are than us.
Unbelievable.
Which is, by the way, very believable. I mean, look, we put a man on the moon in 1968, so it hasn't been that many years. You know, what is it, 52 years that we did something? So what happens if another planet is just 800 years ahead of us? Where will the Earth be 800 years from now?
I mean, it's unbelievable that they, I listened to 2 F-16 fighter pilots that said a UFO went right between the 2 of them.
Right.
But it was a secret. Nobody's allowed to talk about it. And it's just crazy. Govy, we're just ripping through the subjects here today. Well, we have 2 more. We're like, the time flies by, but we want to talk about the NBA. But before that, with your permission, I tore this thing out of the New York Post. It's just a mind-blowing. The statistics are unbelievable. So this thing I tore out of the New York Post, it's about LGBTQ students in 6 Ivy League schools. Let's start with the top. Brown, Princeton, Yale, Harvard, Cornell, and Penn, University of Pennsylvania. So just take a wild guess. When I read this, it's unbelievable. I'm just so out of touch with things. And we're doing a podcast. I should be in touch, right? The LGBTQ. What do you think the percentage of people at Brown University, Ivy League school identifies with the LGBTQ?
Well, first of all, Cutty, I'm really it really shows me that you actually buy a New York Post where I go online and I see the different things. It's amazing that you can cut out an article that actually you're reading a physical paper. But how many people? The problem
is that you're a problem solver. I'm not. I can barely work this iPhone.
That's old news already because my New York Post, I can read an article. It changes every 10 minutes.
Look at my screen. It's all cracked.
I haven't seen a paper version in a long time, but I go into the Publix every morning over here, and they have like 3 of them now. Maybe years ago they had 25 or 30 of them because of guys like you that get it online. For idiots like me, they have 3 of them. But take a guess, Brown. What percentage of Brown population identify themselves with the LGBTQ? So if you're LGBTQ, I'm going to guess that the national thing, I'm going to guess is probably 5%. So let's double it. I'll double it because it's Brown and Ivy League. 10%.
Okay, these are the smartest kids in America.
Which is a lot. 10% of a student.
Yeah. Of a student body. These are smartest kids in America at Brown, Princeton, Yale, Harvard, Cornell, and Penn. You can't pick bigger schools. At Brown, 38%. 38%. What's the next one? What's it say? It's like
you know what? Then I have to say that shows you that they are learning when they are in elementary school. They are being questioned like who they are, and they're being like indoctrinated basically of are they a boy or a girl? I mean, it has to be kind of crazy. It's like all of a sudden, if someone says you like to sew and you're a boy, next thing you know, they're cutting off your penis and they're telling you maybe you are a girl.
Well, it's just remarkable. I mean, America's changing so rapidly between immigrants.
38%. That's...
How about Princeton, another great school? 35%. 35%. Another great school, Yale. Wow. 29%. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it just seems like the needle is moving between, my brother-in-law going in to give blood, and they're asking a guy that looks like you and me.
I just don't believe it. I'm going to still say I don't believe it. I still think that it's like they're the people that I just can't believe it.
And by the way, I think these numbers are light because a lot of people are not giving the honest answer. They're not saying I identify as an LGBTQ. I think 38% are the people that are admitting it. I think there's people, more so that maybe are on the fence or whatever. I don't even understand it. And, I was talking to my kids. I said, I'm happy I'm in the mid-60s because this whole thing is just flying by me anymore. I mean, It
is. I mean...
And how about Bud Light? I sent you an article today. Govy predicted this. He's Kreskin. He said we're at the funeral. I mean, this is it, right?
Well... How about that they're basically saying we only got rid of 300-400 jobs of the white-collar jobs. I mean, like their jobs don't mean anything. Someone's going home to their wife and kids, and they're saying, I got let go.
And their mortgage and car payment.
Right. I got let go because our CEO decided to abandon what we do and went with this transgender girl to be the face of Bud Light. And it's over. I mean, they don't realize that if you don't cut the cancer out, the other Bud products are going to go down. That's why they have to have the funeral, start new. If they continue like it's not happening, there'll be another 500 that will be gone. But I feel bad for the people that are the drivers, the people that are the distributors. I mean, they're selling a product. Eventually, they're not going to carry it in their bars. They're not going to carry it.
How about all these employees that get stock options that are crushed now? You know, their savings are all destroyed and crushed. I mean, doesn't...
How about the unions? How about if you're a teacher and you have your pension is involved in some of these stocks?
And I mean, think about it. Doesn't a marketing department do some research and say, well, let's find out what percentage of transgender people drink Bud Light? I mean, you know, is it that big of a group or market that we should appeal to?
I think that the head, the CEO, instead of listening to that, which is like open and shut case, it's like here's the map, just follow the map, you've done great. It's like a no-brainer. It's like, here it is, follow it, and you'll be fine. Except they'll have a company, like they'll have a firm like Blackstone, and is it Blackstone, BlackRock? It's Blackstone, and they'll sit there and say, I want you to go and get a transgender. I want to diversify. Let's go away from what we really make money on. I'm telling you, I want you to do it. They're so powerful.
Because of diversity, check the box.
And how much stock they have, and how much stock Black. And they're listening. And now, you know, how come someone isn't asking Blackstone? How do you feel about all the people that invested with you that are getting killed right now on this one stock?
It's just unbelievable. Well, since we're talking about Bud Light, let's talk about the NBA. It's just absolutely insane, the amount of money that these guys are getting paid. Maybe that's why Govy and the watches are doing so good, because the NBA guys are buying the $6 million watches.
I'm going to tell you something. My prediction, as much as, you know, I like the NBA and these guys are great guys. I mean, they're great guys, but I think some of the owners that are selling right now are looking at the NBA, and I think they're going to see a downward tick. I truly believe there was a guy for the Boston Celtics, Jaylen Brown, nice guy, you know, great ball player, unbelievable ball player. He just signed a contract, 5 years, $305 million.
Think about it, $305,
and it's his second contract,
and he's not even good. I mean, he's not a top tier player.
No. He's not top 10.
Right.
He falls after the top 10, but this is his second contract. So he already made a couple $100 million. You know, because it was only there's 4-year contracts. That when this contract expires, he's only going to be like 35 years old, maybe 34, 33 years old. I mean, he could have $500 million in the bank, not including endorsements or anything else. And, you know, he gets a pension. I mean, you're looking at ball players now. They're talking about billion-dollar careers. And like I said, he's not the top 10. So eventually, someone at home, you're just going to lose interest. You're just going to say, man, you know, he's not even first team all-star, all NBA. He's not first team, and he's making that type of money. What's going to happen when Tatum, his teammate, next year? Are they going to pay him? Are they going to pay him $350? What happens when Joel Embiid's contract comes up? You know,
or how about guys like James Harden, who has played for how many different teams? The guy gets an attitude. He's making $40 million a year, and he's trade me.
People aren't going to be able to afford him. You know who's really going to get hurt? Some guy. Eventually, you're going to get to an age where someone's going to say, "I can't afford you for half the price because all our money is on these two." But I think the regular people, people that watch the games, the money's getting to a point where Julius Erving was making $1.5 million a year.
Right.
I think it's getting to a point where it's hard to watch somebody make $60 million a year, $70 million a year. And then when you want to take your son to a game and watch him play, and he says, well, we're resting him that night.
Right.
So now you're in another city,
you're
in
a good
Atlanta,
team.
And you're not a good team, and all of a sudden they decide to rest him, and he doesn't even show up. I mean, he's getting what's he getting? $300,000 per game, and he can't show up.
Can you imagine?
Michael Jordan never missed a game. Never miss. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a turnoff for some people.
So let me ask you this question. The money's the money. This week, Bronny James, LeBron James' son, who plays for USC, right? Mm-hmm. Had a heart attack. College kid. You think it's like drug enhanced? You know, they're giving him some kind of steroids to get him bigger, to be a better ball player. I mean, well,
some people, that Elon Musk thinks it could have been the vaccine.
Good.
He thinks it could have been. He thinks it could have been the COVID vaccine. You know, no one's. It's hard to ever doubt what he says. You're like,
smartest guy on earth.
It's kind of hard. So when it comes from him, you got to take a second look at it because you really don't know all the different tests.
So let me ask you a question. Other than the fact that he's LeBron James' kid, if he was like a great ball player and he has a heart attack in college, I mean, that has to diminish his value. And when he goes into the NBA to sign a big contract, because you don't know how long. I guess they do unguaranteed contracts for a guy like that.
If I'm him, I think you seriously got to think about he doesn't need the money. He could put him in any of his enterprises that he has, from Sugar Hill to, I mean, he has so many corporations. He could be running a TV studio, a movie studio. I wouldn't even risk it for a second. I would say, you know what?
Don't play.
I wouldn't even put him out there for a risk, because if something ever happened to him, God forbid something ever happened to him, I would have a tough time.
Now, do you think LeBron James, who's 38, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, looks at this $300 million contract and says, they got me cheap? I mean, I'm 38. My first year, I only made, what do you make, $10 million?
It happens all the time. I have some good friends in the NBA that were making $17 million a year, and I remember sitting there telling him, you were born too early. And now you look at these guys, right, and eventually someone else is going to say, I mean, it's, Michael Jordan, for the most part of his career, he was making a couple million, $3-4 million. Right. Only at the end of his career, at the height, he was making $30 million a year.
Well, I wish I was a foot taller. I mean, this is bad.
It's unbelievable. But there's other stuff that's out there right now. We have the climate change.
We're running up against.
But I got to mention this one thing about climate change.
Let me put 25 cents more in the meter.
You can. But I got to mention one thing about climate change that was like on my mind. They want to now take away, more appliances for you and everything like that, like the gas heaters and stuff like that. And the question is how much, the carbon footprint, how much they can save in the next 30 years. And then someone said, if they would just put the fires out in Canada, like, that's the damage that's doing. So what it doesn't make sense to me is they want everybody to give up all their stuff, put the fires out, do other stuff, have China stop doing their things. But, I mean, it's, in 1933, it was just as hot. The heat index, it shows you, was hotter than it is now.
But, thinking outside the box, do you think that's a conversation to get away from Hunter Biden and all the other stuff? Because it knows it pisses people off. You're taking my gas range away, so you're not listening to all the investigation bullshit anymore. It's like,
they try to do things. I think part of the thing in our country is the news. The mainstream media, until Donald Trump became in office, I never heard of fake news before. Never. I believed, if I watched ABC News at night with David Muir, I thought the guy was great. If I was other networks, if I was Fox News now, every night I would bash David Muir, every single night, and show what a phony this guy is. I mean, he sat there the other night when Donald Trump was indicted for a couple more counts, and they broke the news at 6:28 in the evening like it was breaking news. And David Muir, instead of leading the story off with Hunter Biden, he goes, we have breaking news right now. Donald Trump is now going to be indicted for the 44th time, 92 more cases, and he says, wait, stand by. And now all these reporters are at their different sites. So they were already tipped off that this is going to be the leading news.
Prepared to change the conversation.
All the Americans are out there thinking, oh, my God, it wasn't breaking news. They were tipped off. They were ready for it. And now to get Donald Trump back on this thing, how about that they're trying to indict his 59-year-old groundskeeper? A groundskeeper.
Well, they're trying to get him the rat. They're trying to squeeze his balls. He's trying to squeeze his balls.
What is this groundskeeper?
Now they're trying to get
who pays for his lawyer? I mean, this groundskeeper. And by the way, his boss tells him to do something. If I told my guy, if I said to him, "Listen, I don't want you to water those plants over there.
Let him die.
Let him die." He's going to let him die. But for him to they're squeezing the low man on the totem pole.
And they're going to bankrupt them because the lawyers will just destroy this guy.
But meanwhile, look who's paying for the Biden's legal team.
He has a fund. Now, I said to somebody who works for me, I said, okay, so if somebody creates a fund to pay for my lawyers, is that taxable income to me? Because I normally would have to pay that for myself.
It should be,
but
shouldn't it?
somebody's giving me a gift of legal fees. It's a gift. It's like money.
They would have to pay the taxes.
Somebody's got to pay.
The person who gave the gift then it has to pay the taxes.
All right, so this is another tax charge here. Follow it up.
No, I'm just curious.
Right, no, who's paying the tax? I mean, Hunter Biden's got to spend 20, 30, 40 million on these lawyers. I mean, these lawyers, they want millions and millions of dollars. I mean, that's a gift. Somebody's got to pay taxes on that money that's coming in because it's representing him, I guess.
Right.
I don't know.
And, and people don't ask the questions. So, if you're a journalist today, and you went to any school, Northwestern has a great journalist school. If you have a question and and you're lucky enough that
it's under investigation, we can't talk about it.
The KGP calls on you in the press conference, and you get your one question, and with everything going on in the world, and you get up there and say, how does Joe Biden feel about the new stairs on Air Force One? Does he find it a little bit more comfortable for him walking up? And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, that's the question you had.
Right.
It's
under investigation. We can't talk about the new stairs.
Who are our journalists?
It's terrible.
Woodward and Bernstein, they must be turning over saying, what's going on?
Anyway, Govy, we just ripped through.
It was good to see you back here.
Yeah, back down here in South Florida. And I have to tell you that the temperature down here in South Florida is equal or less. We're right here's the ocean.
Right.
Is less than up north in
96
New York.
Up there.
Yeah,
today.
New York or Philadelphia. It's Philadelphia. You have no breeze. You're suffocating. Here, at least you have a breeze off the ocean. It's not bad. And every restaurant is empty. You can go into every restaurant. They're having early bird specials at 8 at night.
And you can fan yourself with all the money you're saving in no state tax.
Yeah. That's funny. All right, Govy. Well, look, have a great week. Follow us on all these social medias. I'm going to give one more plug. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and are approaching 7,000.
And I'll let you know how Boston is. I'll be back next week.
All right, so Gavy's on vacation next week, and hopefully he'll be back here safe. I'm hanging around for a little week until he comes back, and maybe we'll do another podcast here in Florida.
All right, sounds good.
All right,
See
stay
you.
well, my friend. Have safe travels.
You too. Bye.